Hello, and welcome to Purlfect Pairings. My name is Gayanne, and my pronouns are she and her.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa, and my pronouns are she and her.
Before we start today, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are filming, and that's the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders, past and present. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you are a regular watcher of the podcast, or if you're new, welcome. We have an incredible interview lined up for you today. When I saw that Lisa was coming to Victoria, I immediately, it's probably within like 5 minutes of seeing your post, you probably thought I was crazy lady contacting you.
I never think people are crazy. People do what they do, you know?
Right. And I thought I just have to set up this interview because it's not often that. Is this the first time you've come to Victoria?
Not personally,
yeah.
I've been here many times, but it'll be my first time in this capacity vending at a show. It's my first time at this show, so that's really exciting. So yeah, that's it.
Fantastic.
I was really honoured. I'm really honoured to be invited to speak with you. So
thank you.
Thank you for that. I saw your message and I was like, oh, that's really nice. Let me see if I can fit that in.
Oh, fantastic. So we're here at Morule Bark, and it's the day before the big Yarra Valley Wool and Craft Show, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Which is a really fabulous market, and I hope you are able to attend. And maybe if you were able to come, leave a comment about how you enjoyed the show, who was your favorite vendors. Definitely Lisa.
Come and say hi. Or if you said hi, leave a comment.
So you've come a long way.
Yes. Yes, we're down from Newcastle in New South Wales, which, if people don't know, it's about 2 hours north of Sydney and about an hour north of the central coast of New South Wales. So we were in the car 8 hours yesterday and another 6 hours today. My husband's amazing. He did all the driving, so I don't think I would have been able to do it if I had to do it by myself. So, yes.
Yep. So,
but yeah, it's been a long 2 days.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. It makes this interview even more special, for real. So, tell us about your fiber journey. Like, how have you come into? Because let me start again. I was doing some stalking of your Instagram, right? And I saw that you kind of started with socks.
Did I start with socks?
I've seen like you had some like baby socks.
Yeah, did you scroll right back to the beginning of my Instagram?
Back to the beginning because I'm thorough like that.
Oh my god. So I started, as a knitter, I think I learned as a child. I'm pretty sure it was either my mum or my grandma or one of our local surrogate mums who taught me how to knit. And so I used to knit as a kid and then kind of took a stop from that and did a lot of sewing. I did sewing all through high school and all through uni. And then it wasn't until I was pregnant with my first child 10 years ago that I was like, okay, we're not going to be able to do very much sewing. Takes up too much space, too hard to pack away. So my mother-in-law does quite a lot of knitting. And so I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. You can just pick it up, and when the baby needs you, you can just put it down, and you don't have to, it doesn't take up much room, you know.
A bit more portable,
right? Not when you have no stash when you first start.
Oh.
But so I started knitting baby clothes, and then I was knitting baby socks for my baby. And then when I was pregnant with my second child, I had two of my best friends were pregnant at the same time, and our babies were due within a few weeks of each other. So there I was knitting baby socks for all of the babies. So all the babies would have matching socks at the same time. Aww. And so we had this really adorable little photo shoot where they're all wearing their matching little socks when they were like 3 or 4 months old. And it was just like, oh, this is my life as a knitter, making baby socks. And then the kids grew, and then they grow too fast to wear things that I've knit for them. So I've made a rule now, I'm only going to knit them either socks or I'm only going to knit sweaters for my older daughter, because then she can pass them down to my younger daughter, and in theory, if I don't finish them in time, then they'll fit my younger daughter first, even though they were meant for my older daughter. So
win-win.
yeah, playing with the averages there. And then I don't know, like I'm kind of a serial crafter, so
Okay.
I just have always picked up crafts, and I've always done all different like handmade things. I've done silversmithing and glass, and I've done pottery and ceramics, and I've done everything, like anything you can think of. I've had a go, even if it's not been a craft that I've adopted into my like intimate circle of crafts. So yeah, and then I was knitting a lot through the time when my kids were little and learning a lot. I think I just was like, all right, well, I'm going to try that. You know, it doesn't matter if the pattern's hard or if it's like looks complicated or whatever. I'm just going to give it a go. And then, you know what? I'm going to learn something. If it doesn't work out, I can just undo it.
I love that really positive, like just get stuck into it kind of
Yeah.
attitude.
I find it really interesting when people say, oh, that's too hard for me, I could never do that. Or like, oh, a full sweater, like I could never do that. And I'm like, well, if you're knitting a hat, you can basically do everything. So it's just that it's more knitting.
You've got all the skills.
You've got all the skills, exactly. So it wasn't until we left Sydney and moved up to Newcastle and I quit my job that I started the business.
Okay, because you've just had a birthday business, birthday.
I did. I had my birthday business only a couple of days ago. Gosh, you have been a good stalker.
I'm such a good stalker.
Yeah, so my business just turned 3, which...
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's something I can't believe, because I didn't start it ever having any plans or knowing, like I had no roadmap. I was sort of like, I'm just gonna, you know, we had just moved to a new town. I knew nobody, I knew nothing. I had my younger daughter wasn't in school yet, so I had her at home with me a lot of the time, and I was just like, well, what else am I doing? What else am I doing with my time? I want to be productive. And so I started, and it just kind of picked up, and I don't know, like it's been crazy. I can't believe that 3 years has gone past. And at the same time, it's like, well, that also means that it's 3 years since I left Sydney, which is also mind-blowing, because I don't feel like I've done very much. I just don't.
Okay.
But you know what, you're your own harshest critic.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
That's definitely true. But let's talk about what you have done.
Okay.
Which is grow a brand of really fun products that keeps expanding and always delivering something very creative and different.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's really, really sweet. I struggle, like I actually had this conversation with my husband, maybe it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. I was like, I'm doing too much stuff. Like the breadth of things that I'm doing is too much. And we were talking about like how would I pick what I would drop if I could. And I'm just like, can't.
Yeah.
I can't. They're all like, everything is everything. Like I have even more, like the book of ideas is immense. And I want to do all of it, and I want to do it right now.
That's kind of feeling how I feel about my knitting queue.
Yes.
Like wanting to get through it.
Yeah. Don't you find on that note that buying yarn and adding patterns to your queue is far more productive than actually getting through the knitting? Like I am very successful at buying yarn and adding to queue.
I'm very, very good at that, because I can I find some yarn and be like, I know exactly what I want to make with that. It's the perfect yarn.
Yep.
It's going home with me.
Yep.
And then I put it on my list. My husband actually made me a spreadsheet
Oh, that's clever.
so I can track all of my whips.
Yes.
And what I wanted to make for the year.
I don't. I just have a pile of bags in the corner of whips.
Yep.
And then a cupboard of yarn that's kind of like there's like the main cupboard of yarn, and then there's like my knit next cupboard of yarn.
Ooh, I like that idea.
So the knit next cupboard is closer to my knitting chair at home where I sit and knit and watch TV. So I'm like, this is the yarn that I have to get to next before I'm allowed to go get the yarn from the cupboard.
Okay.
That's how it works.
I've recently hung all of my project bags on the wall of my craft room.
That's so cool.
So I've got all my whips lined up in.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I'm gonna remember that for later. Sorry, I think I just kicked your tripod.
That's all right. We'll be okay.
Yeah.
We'll survive. We'll
The
survive
shaking
that.
of the world.
Did you have a spinning phase as well, a yarn spinning phase? Because again, that's just from my stocking.
Yeah, very successfully, I might add. I don't think spinning is ever a phase. I think you become a spinner, and then you're like, I'm a spinner now. And even if you haven't, like I probably haven't spun anything in a year, which is, hurts me inside. But I have a cupboard full of fibre and intentions on buying a big girl spinning wheel. I'm just waiting for the right moment.
Okay.
So I'll tell you what happened is we had this thing called COVID and we were all in lockdown.
Yes.
And spinning was my ISO craft.
Okay.
Because what I really needed was a craft to generate yet more yarn.
Don't we all?
So on a whim, I ordered a drop spindle from a lady, and she sent it to me with a couple of little blobs of fibre. And I was like, cool, okay. It was smaller than a weaving loom, which is what made the choice, because I was like, we were living in our apartment, we had the 2 kids at home with us. It was a really hard time, as I know it was for a lot of people. Both my husband and I were working full-time. The kids were at home with us full-time. I was still teaching at high school, so I had like classes over Zoom with my students, like with my high school students, and I was being interrupted all the time by kids going like my older one had started school, she was in year 1. Mum helped me with this class activity, and there I was trying to teach a lesson. I had my toddler crawling around over my shoulders.
I can't even imagine
It
how
was just
challenging that would have been.
It was so stressful, and the thing that got me through it was spinning. So I taught myself how to spin. I watched a few YouTubes. I got the hang of it really quickly, and then once we were out of lockdown, my dad helped me make my own blending board. So I ordered like the cloth and the tools, and because he has a workshop at the house, he built me like a board, and we just staple gunned the cloth, so I could start blending my own fibre blends. And I was starting to share all this stuff on Instagram, and it was really fun. And
Which I
people...
found.
Brilliant. I love it. I love it. Classic. So people liked those, and then and so I started making spinning friends, and eventually I bought myself a really little electric spinning wheel, one of those nanos. I bought it off a Ravelry D-stash for like $100, and a lady in Queensland sent it to me, and I was just like, cool, okay, let's give this a go. And then it wasn't long before I outgrew that, and now I have a Ashford E-spinner, and that's my spinning wheel.
Okay.
But I want like a big treadle kind of spinning wheel thing, because I think, maybe I'll actually sit down and give some time over it if I've got this spinning wheel occupying part of my house.
Yep.
And be like,
Yep.
it's there, I've got to use it.
You have to prioritize something that's taking up that space.
Yeah. But then at some point I bought myself a big drum carder, and then I started blending fibres, and people wanted to buy the fibre blends that I did. So so I have one collection that I'm planning to do when I get back from Canberra next weekend. And then it's just going to be like a little capsule collection of fibre, and then I kind of think that it takes up a lot of time. So it might be my very, very last one. So
You heard it here first.
I haven't told anyone yet. I've just been like, I have to like plan it, and I've got all the fibre. I've been planning to do it for ages, but I just haven't had time. So I think I'm going to carve out some time to do it, use the fibre that I've got, do the collection that I wanted to, and then maybe actually do some spinning, because I'll be inspired.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. Let's talk about the products that you're making now.
Yep.
tell us about them.
So I design everything myself. I feel like I started life as a digital designer, and so everything that I do, excuse me, it's like either hand drawn or I've drawn it from scratch on the computer. And what I do is I make tools and accessories for knitting, crochet, spinning and weaving. And all of my tools and accessories and things are produced by me in my studio, which we built at the back of our house in Newcastle. I have my own laser cutter. I do all my own laser cutting. So it's like this full on, like I have control of the production process from beginning to end. And it's really exciting. I love coming up with ideas and then being able to physically make them myself, and then see them come to life, and then be able to share them with everybody, and it's been really fun.
Some people might not know what a laser cutter is. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. A laser cutter is a tool that basically takes a digital file and it uses a high-powered laser beam, and it follows the pattern of the digital file, and it uses the high-powered laser to cut through various materials. So I work mainly with timber plywood and various different acrylic plastics. They're all flat sheet materials. So people might be more familiar with laser cut jewellery if they've seen it at markets and things like that. So there's a lot of laser cut jewellery artists, and I do make a bit of jewellery. But mostly what I do, because I love it, is making all the accessories for knitting and spinning. So I make things like stitch marker sets. And
I have one.
Wraps per inch tools, and I make my own drop spindles now as well, and all sorts of things like needle gauges, gauge squares, anything you can think of that's sock rulers.
And because it's a laser, it's very precise, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. So when I'm playing with my files, sometimes I'm making adjustments, and the adjustments are down to 0.1 of a millimeter is my standard kind of, I need to just move that a little bit over so things fit together. The precision work is extreme, and so the detail that I can get into my designs is pretty high. And because I'm a very detail-oriented person, I tend to design things that have quite a lot of detail in them. So I think that's one of the things that sets me apart from other makers, is just, I don't know, I guess the artistic quality and the level of detail that goes into all the pieces. So, yeah.
You make everything from scratch,
Yes.
right? How long would it take you to make, say, a set of stitch markers?
It's sort of hard to explain like end to end for one set of stitch markers, because everything is batch produced.
Okay.
So the design process, depending on what it is probably the lengthiest part of the whole process, because
When you say design process,
like the
what's involved
actual
with that?
the actual drawing of the piece, and figuring out like what settings to use on the laser cutter, deciding on materials, doing prototypes. If pieces are made out of multiple bits that have to fit together, making sure that those components fit together and that it looks the way that I want. So prototyping can be a really, really slow process, especially when things are complicated and they involve a few more pieces. Or if I've drawn something that has quite a lot of detail in it and I want to get the laser cutter settings right to be able to show off that detail. So I have all these documents that I write for myself to remind myself what laser settings to use for different pieces, for different materials. So I have all these like technical specifications that I keep, so it's all very full on and involved like that. So that part is really lengthy. That takes a lot of time.
Oh my god. All right, everybody, we've just had a change of location. We're here on the grounds at the Mooroolbark Community
Literally on
Centre.
the grounds.
We've just come outside because they're setting up inside where Lisa's stall will be, and so if you hear a bit of background noise from the traffic or the children at the playground, that's all that is. So just bear with us. We're doing the best that we can.
We're doing the best. We're just rolling with it.
Yep. Yeah. So we were just talking about how long it takes to make it. I asked the question how long it takes to make a set of stitch markers. I have a beautiful succulents. The succulents.
Oh my God, I love
that
those
I got
ones.
at Maker Maker.
I love my succulents are my favorite.
Yeah, I love them too.
So, and I was talking about how the design process and prototyping is probably part of the lengthiest bit of making the pieces, but then when it comes to production, I'm usually making a bunch of sets at a time, so it's more time efficient to run the laser and do like a whole set of things. So with the succulents, for example, I might make 15 sets at a time, and that'll probably take about an hour or so in the laser, because it has quite a lot of engraving to do.
Yes, they're very detailed.
And then when they come out of the laser, depending on what material it is, will depend on what my post-processing is. So if it's timber,
That's the ones I have.
yep, timber, I love how it looks, it's beautiful and natural, but what happens when the laser is essentially burning the edges of the timber,
Yes.
and some flies going.
Never mind. It's
They're great
30
outdoors.
I was just going to say, never mind, it's 30 degrees today. Thank God we found a bit of shade.
Yes. So they get a bit of charring around the edges of them.
Okay.
Which is typical of laser cutting with timber. So I usually buff the edges off them because I don't want people getting charred timber remains on their beautiful knitting. So that's kind of, from a selfish perspective, I wouldn't want that on my knitting.
Yep.
So I don't want that to happen on anybody else's knitting either.
Yep.
So that's a very time intensive process because I have a little machine with a tiny little buffing mop, and I do 4 pieces at a time or 3 pieces at a time because that's usually all that I can physically hold up against the size of the little mop, and I just run it over all the edges of all the pieces.
So each one, I guess not individually as in one by one, but you can do a few at a time.
I
but
can do
you're-
it, yeah.
It's all hand.
It's all hand
hand
cleaned,
done.
yeah. And then I usually hand sand the backs of the pieces as well.
Yes.
Because one of my bugbears was years ago, before I started doing this, I purchased a set of stitch markers from an overseas company who's very well known, and they were made out of timber and they weren't sanded on the back. At least I assume they weren't, because every time it went across my yarn it would just keep catching on the edges of the yarn, and I was like, this is no good. It's like pulling little strands, it's pulling the fibers out of my yarn, which made me really unhappy. So when I started producing them, I was like, right, we're sanding the backs of all of them, making sure that that doesn't happen to people. So
Yep.
so yeah, so that's with the timber. That takes ages. Oh my God, it just takes so long. With acrylic pieces, I usually do hand painting.
Okay.
So if you're following me on Instagram, occasionally I show reels of me sitting there hand painting. I have the tiniest little paintbrushes that you can imagine. So they're really, really small, because some of my engravings, the width of the engravings, I know is 0.3 millimeters. Because I know that's the minimum width of engraving that I can get for it to appear properly
on the acrylic.
on the acrylic. So that's what I do. And there I am. I brush out the dust from inside them by hand with a big soft brush, and then I hand paint them individually. And that takes forever. So if you want to know how long it takes to make things, it takes forever. It honestly does. But it's a labor of love.
Yeah.
And you know, it doesn't bother me to sit down and do 100, 200 of them, spend a whole day doing it.
I was just going to say, does it take a day, a whole day?
Depends on the design, and it depends on the piece. And usually in the studio I'm multitasking, so while the laser cutter is running and doing its thing and I can't sort of interrupt it and get my hands on it, I'm always finding other tasks to do. So I'm sewing, or I'm painting things, or cleaning things, or peeling things, or whatever other job that I have in the studio to do.
Well, and that actually brings me to your bags. You have project bags too.
I do, because I can't stop at one thing. I mentioned earlier that I started life as a sewer. So my grandfather was actually a tailor, and I learned from him and from my mum, who is a prolific quilter.
Oh, okay.
And so I was always sewing, and I learned to use a sewing machine when I was about 5 years old. And I look at my kids now and I'm like, they are not touching my sewing machine. They are so incapable of anything. Like, I don't know how it was that I learned at such a young age, but my mum was always sewing, and she must have just said, right, you're old enough to learn, we're going to learn this.
Just do it, off you go.
Just do it. So I love it, and that's another thing that I love to do. So I make project bags, and I'm pretty particular about my fabrics and everything like that, so I think they're all kind of special. Yeah, I have a couple that I'm using. Shall I show one off?
Yes, let's do that.
I've got my jellyfish bag. This is the one that I had from last year's Advent. So here it is. It's got a project inside it, that's why it's looking a little bit squishy. And I've got my anglerfish pin on there as well that I made. So the bags are all like custom printed fabric. It's all 100% cotton. I use beautiful heavy duty metal zippers. I don't like nylon zippers because I don't want plastic. The handles are again 100% cotton, and they're all really sturdy, and I find they're the perfect size for a whole range of projects. Like this one that I've got in here is a shawl that I'm working on,
And that's pretty big.
it's pretty big. I fit Westnitz shawls in these, so 5 skeins.
There you go.
You can fit a little bit more, but it's a kind of a squeeze.
Yep.
So you can fit like 8 skeins of yarn if you don't have a project and if you like really cram them in there. I haven't tested that. And they're just a really good size, and
Nice handle length.
yeah, they can go over your shoulder. So I particularly wanted to design something that was like could be used as a project bag or a handbag. And a friend of mine told me that she saw someone with one of my bags at the pub once, and she was going to go up to them and ask if they had a project in there, and then I think she chickened out. So who knows? Like, I think somebody was just using it as a handbag. Yeah.
1121 mil.
I know,
sorry,
it's okay. I could have
1121
picked an easier
Windmills.
brand name for people to get their mouths around.
1121 Windmills. Yeah, I got that right.
1121 Windmills.
1121 Windmills
Yeah.
in the wild
Yes.
at the pub.
Yes.
Do you have any other products with you that we can showcase?
Oh, I do. Maybe not any of my handmade things. I've got lots of little bits that I don't have for sale at the moment, which I don't think I should show you, because that's silly. It's like, look at this great thing I made, but you can't buy one. Lots of things that I made for clubs and stuff.
Did you make that bag?
I did. I made this bag. I have this print, but in a bigger size, in the same size as that one. I made this for my club last year. It was a travel themed club. I did like a monthly
Let's talk
notions
about
club.
that.
So every month I picked a different destination, and people who had signed up for the club got a themed selection of notions that I designed, and themed treats for that particular destination. And then people signed up for a first class ticket, which got them the project bag, and if they were 6-month subscribers, they got the notions pouch. So I'm desperate to make some of these because they're really handy little size.
It is a great size.
But I just ran out of time for more work, so I have all the fabric sitting there.
I
It's ready
feel
to
like
go.
that was really good for crochet hooks as well.
Well, I do actually have that I made.
Oh, look at that.
That I made for my Advent 2 years ago.
Do you do an Advent every year? Notions
Yes.
Advent?
I do a Notions Advent every year. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I'm planning this year's at the moment, and it's going to be I'm really excited about it. Like, it's going to be really, really good.
I can actually feel the energy coming off Lisa when she says that. I hope that shows through
I hope so
in my
too.
editing.
I hope so.
This is super handy,
Yeah.
like for drop stitches.
Yeah. I had plans to make a whole bunch of them. I don't know if people can see, but it's actually made, I made like
I'm gonna try and hold it up. This might not
a
work.
crochet hook, and I've embedded it in a resin crystal. It was for, the theme the year before last was cryptids, and it was all like mythical creatures and creatures of folklore from around the world. So that was really exciting. I had a lot of fun doing that advent.
I just love how that feels in the
It
hand.
has a really
like,
nice hand grip feel to it.
100%. Like, and I'm just thinking of the frustration that goes into your hand when you've like
Dropped a stitch.
either dropped a stitch
Yeah.
or realized that you have to fix something like 6 rows down.
Yes.
And you
Yep.
drop down to do it and you're like,
We've all been there.
and
And
that
if you have
actually,
a beautiful tool with which to fix it, then suddenly it becomes a pleasurable experience
Right?
rather than something that's just like, oh my gosh, why?
and that this handle bit like just feels really nice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I need to make more of those. I do have
Definitely.
intentions of that. Time is my enemy. Lack of time, I think, is more to the point. What else was I going to show you? Oh, I have the tote bags that I've just done. These are new. I don't know if you can see it because of the light, but I had these printed. This is artwork that I did. I don't know if you can see it, but
It's a little bright. I'll take a picture.
it's,
There we go.
that's
looks-
a bit better.
Yeah.
It's a llama in a hand knitted sweater, so I did that artwork myself. And it says, I only knit on days that end in Y. Because, so true.
Yep. Yep.
So I don't know what else I have to show you. Everything else in there is secret,
Oh.
so I can't show you yet, but that's it.
I love a good secret.
Yeah.
I'm doing a secret test knit right now, which is
How
why
exciting.
nobody has seen me on Instagram because
You're just
I'm
madly knitting away.
madly knitting away.
Yeah.
It's got a pretty tight deadline. So.
Oh, okay. Well, that's exciting. Now I want to hear all about it once we switch the cameras off.
So you've done the folklore creatures.
Yep.
Last year's Advent was ocean themed.
Yes.
You've got international destinations.
That was
under
my
your
club
belt.
last year.
Where does your inspiration come from?
My brain is like a deep, dark recess of weirdness. I don't know how else to explain it, but I'll just be like sitting there thinking about something, and then I'm just like, oh, that would be a great idea for a thing. And so I write a little note down for it. So it really just, I don't know, it comes from anywhere. I do love nature and natural things. So actually I have a whole new range that is inspired by elements of nature, and I've brought back timber in a big way because I had a big break from timber. I was having some trouble with some of the timber products that I was using, and in the meantime I've been testing out new timber products that I found from different suppliers, so I'm really happy with them. So now I've got this beautiful new elements range, which is all inspired by nature. I love things like, I love cactuses, so I wish everything could be cactus themed. That's a delightful background noise.
How about that hammering?
Yeah. Oh, it's all good. Part of the joys of outdoor podcasting.
Outdoor podcasting, impromptu meetups.
And so I love fantasy, and I love things that are kind of out of the realms of reality but still have some grounding in reality. So I think that's where I went with my folklore advent that I did. So I like looking at combinations of things, so things that might seem out of place in one place or another, and putting the two together. So
Like podcasting outside while there's hammering going on.
oh, he's doing a good job.
Smashing job.
Smashing, yes. So really it's just like, I don't know, things that I see that I like. I don't know, I'm inspired by a lot of pop culture, so I have a few different pop culture referenced things amongst my products, and it's really just like, oh, I loved that TV show, I'm going to do a set of stitch markers, or so it's pretty varied, and I think that's good. My tastes are really eclectic, and I think that's great because it appeals to such a broad range of people. Like some people who aren't into fantasy or science fiction aren't going to be interested in those products, but then there are other things that they can connect with that excite them in that way. And I have people messaging me all the time saying, oh, can you do a blah blah collection, or can you do a this? And so I just keep adding them to the list, and I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea, add it to the list.
If you have any ideas for Lisa to add to her list, you can drop that in the comments below as well.
Because I'm by no means short of things to do.
We'll put some more things on your list.
Yes, please. I'm always up for suggestions, because it's nice to know what people want, and it's nice to know what things we can connect over. So sometimes, you don't know if a person is interested in the same things you are, and as soon as I start like sharing that on Instagram, and then people are going, oh my God, I love that too, and you're like, oh cool, you are my people.
That reminds me, like, a lot of our viewers like to get a book recommendation, and what you were talking about, the mix of kind of reality with fantasy. I'm listening to a book right now that I love, and I'm almost done, so I can, I think, confidently recommend it. I'm not quite sure how the ultimate end will be, but The House of the Cerulean, in the Cerulean Sea, or The House on the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune.
I've seen that book, but I haven't read it.
Fabulous. Loving it.
I will take a book rec.
And it is a bit, it's a bit reality fantasy, especially if you've worked in government before, like I have.
Oh, okay, yeah. Awesome.
Highly recommend it. It's a caseworker, a government caseworker who has to go to an orphanage, and he works for the department in charge of magical youth. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay,
but
intriguing.
It's a fabulous book.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend that.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
No, that's
just
okay.
A bit of a digression.
No, absolutely.
What's your favorite fiber craft?
All of them. Can I say that?
You can. You can.
I think that I'm a mood crafter.
All right.
So it's like whatever fits my mood at the time, whether and I think that's the same with my knitting projects. Like, I have a few different projects on the go that feed different parts of what I feel like doing at the time. Like, if I just want something kind of simple where I don't have to concentrate too hard, it's just a straight shawl. Or if I'm like okay to think a little bit more, I'm like working on some color work, that kind of thing. If I really want to zone out, it'll be spinning.
Yeah.
But I feel like I need more time for that, so I haven't felt like I've had a block of time that I can commit to spinning. Like, I'd rather sit down for a few hours and spin and just completely like forget the world exists.
Yeah. I'm actually a little bit afraid to take up spinning. Like, I feel like it might take over.
It's a bit of a black hole, but like a nice black hole.
No, definitely. And I think not that I think I would be good at it, right? But I think I could do it.
Yeah.
But
it's just a skill. Like, if you think, think back to the time when you were never knitting, and the first time you picked up knitting, like, you weren't amazing at it straight away. You had to work at it. They're physical skills, and I think this is something that people don't give themselves enough space or enough time to learn how to do something new. And it can be really, really frustrating when you're trying, like, even when you're just trying a new technique. Like, if you've constantly been a thrower and you're suddenly trying to learn continental.
Oh yeah.
Like, that is probably one of the most frustrating experiences I had as a knitter, was trying to teach myself how to knit continental, and now I know how to do it. It's like amazing.
I'm going around the opposite way, so I'm trying to teach myself how to throw, which is interesting because when I took knitting back up in 2019, I actually used to throw, but I used to throw with my left hand.
Okay, I'm gonna have to
I
watch
would
you do that.
literally pick up the yarn from over here and bring it around. Yeah.
That seems like it would have like additional time and work involved in it.
It did.
Perhaps unnecessary.
It was. But, so I think I actually knit lefty, because now I continental knit, right?
Yeah.
But I've been wanting to do more color work.
Yes.
So I've been practicing throwing with my right hand.
So if you're doing two colors, I actually do it with both of the colors on my left hand.
I can't seem to get them
I'll show you how to do it later.
far
if you
apart
like.
enough.
Actually, I have a YouTube video.
Ooh, I'll link that. We'll link that below.
Yeah.
Because that's That's a 2024 skill
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Like, definitely.
I think it's like, again, it's one of those things that when you start trying to teach yourself a new skill, it's like, it's really awkward at first and you feel like your brain is in backwards and you can't do it and you're like, oh my gosh, was I ever even a knitter to begin with? And this whole thing is stupid and I'm just going to throw it in the corner and go and eat some chocolate. Which I've never done. Don't look at me like that.
This is a no
judgment zone. So, you know, I think that, yeah, people don't give themselves enough time to sort of go, well, I am learning a new skill. It is going to be hard. My hands need to learn what to do. And I'm going to do a little bit of teacher speak here. I hope that's okay.
Totally fine.
You have to form new neural pathways between what your hands are doing and what your brain then understands and remembers, and then like that feedback loop between what your brain is thinking and what your hands are doing.
Yes.
It actually takes time. It's not like some people who are very, very skilled and who are very talented can easily pick it up and they get it done faster. But also, like, yeah, you need to have that time. Like, you need to give your brain time to form those neural pathways to be able to basically learn that new skill. When I taught myself continental knitting, it took me the entirety of a What the Fade shawl to learn how to do it. And those rows go on forever. They're like 700 stitches long.
Oh, don't
and
tell
I'm
me
there
that.
going,
It's off the
oh
list.
my God, why is this so slow? Why is this so slow? Okay, let me go back to the faster one for a bit. Until eventually the continental was the faster and throwing was not. So, yeah.
For me, for color work, it's managing where, like, the dominant color is versus the other color.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think
I'm
that's the
working on
same for a lot of people, and it's also the tension either from both hands or when you're holding it in the same hand, getting the tension right between the two yarns is, again, a skill that takes time to learn.
Yep.
Yeah. So, so to answer your question, probably knitting. Probably knitting is my go-to craft. We got kind of a bit of a circuitous route to get there, but we got there in the end.
That's all right.
I spent 2 days in the car, guys. I'm just like, what's going on?
I know, and now we're out here in the open.
Yeah, actually, it's really pleasant.
It is nice in the shade. It's a bit
Yeah.
of a breeze. Hope
Yeah.
hope there's no wind noise on this
No,
recording.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Do you have any favorite knitting designers or indie dyers?
Oh, I have a lot of favourite indie dyers. Designers, I'm just happy enough to pick up patterns that I like from all over the place. Like, I've knit designs from a bunch of different people, and I probably couldn't say that I have my favourite designer because, you know, plenty of designers come up with designs that you like and other ones that you don't like quite as much.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they have a design that you don't really like, and then you've seen somebody else knit it and you go, oh,
I
actually,
like that.
I really like that. So I think how they display their design and the yarn colour choice that they use kind of can play a lot into how much you like it.
Definitely.
Or not.
Definitely, at least
Yeah.
at first blush. So, like you said, if you see it in multiple colors, or click on the projects tab in Ravelry and then see how other people have done it, can really make a difference.
Yeah, and in terms of yarn dyers, I mean, since I've started doing this business, I've managed to make a lot of friends amongst the Australian yarn dyeing community, which is really, really nice. So I could list a bunch of them, but I don't know, I'm going to probably forget people.
That's all right.
So
you've done some collaborations.
I have, yeah. So I often, like, I've done quite a few collaborations with Susan from Ash and Eve Designs. She's a fabulous dyer, unbelievably underrated. I would probably rate her as one of my top Australian yarn dyers, and not just because she's a good friend, but like, I immediately loved her yarn even before we'd ever had any kind of conversation, and it was probably months until we actually connected and started working together and started becoming friends. So her yarn is just amazing. She does a lot of pop culture references as well. But she has other things too. She just has such an amazing skill with colour and kind of like a good level of restraint with her colour application, but it's also really fun, and you can see that she's really carefully thought about how the colour is laid onto the yarn and how it's going to knit up. So I think she has a really strong skill with creating yarn that not only looks good on the skein but also looks good when it's worked up. Which is, I think
that's a skill.
It absolutely is. It's a skill and a talent. So she's one of my favorite people.
Do you have any of the Valentine sets left, or did they all sell out?
Well, we had to close the pre-order because we had to start actually making them. So sorry, no, you can't get any more. It's one of those things that when we announce stuff, like, people have got to jump on it really quick, because otherwise, we hit the end of the time period that we can leave it open. Otherwise it just ends up being open forever, and then you can never get on top of orders in that situation.
True. Especially working by yourself. You've got to really manage that, so you're not going insane in terms of having to spend every waking moment making our notions.
I do that anyway. Occasionally my kids help, which is more unhelpful than you think it might be.
Okay.
But they're cute and they like to be involved, so
it's nice.
It is really nice. I like them coming down to the studio and they play with my things. I'm like, don't touch that. It's not dried yet. Don't touch. It's like, this one, you can play with these. And then they all want to pick up like samples that I've made and like, Mum, can I have this as a treasure? And it's like something that I've painted, and I'm like, yeah, sure, the colours on that were awful and it didn't work out the way that I wanted, so...
But it's a treasure.
Have it, you have it, it's your treasure
right?
now. Yeah, so they love that.
Speaking of limited time ordering, when will you announce your advent?
So I still have a little bit of planning to do. It will be all over my Instagram,
which I can find,
and it will, yes. And I'll probably announce it in a newsletter as well. So if people are wanting to sign up for my newsletter, because sometimes Instagram, like, things just go past so fast and you can easily miss
Definitely. I
So
have missed out on things because of that.
So definitely sign up for my newsletter. I don't have a lot of time, so I really only send it out once a month, or maybe occasionally I'll send out an extra one in a month if I have something really important to tell people about, or something really exciting that I want to share. So that's a really good way of keeping up with my things. So Advent announcement, I plan to do some work on the drive home. It'll have to be after Canberra. I was thinking, like, by the end of April, I would have an announcement out about it, but it's really exciting. I'm actually doing two. I'm doing 2 Advents, so I'm splitting it up, and I've planned some really exciting collaborations with it. So I can't wait for people to see it and get really excited. So, and the theme, oh my God, the theme is just like, oh, I can't wait. I'm like itching to start designing this thing. It's going to be amazing.
Well, we can't wait to see it and hear about it.
Yep.
And order it, of course.
I hope so.
So where else can viewers find you?
So I'm not sure how quickly your podcast will get out.
Well, it'll be out next week.
Okay. Next weekend is a new show in Canberra that I'm vending at. It's the Australian Yarn Show.
I'm so sad that I can't make it out for that.
It's just looking like a really good event.
Looks fabulous.
I'm really excited about it. There's all kinds of things happening. It's a 2-day show in Canberra. There's like a panel of speakers. I'm speaking
just
on
gonna say,
Saturday
you're speaking,
afternoon.
aren't you?
Yeah, I got a slot. I was invited to come and speak about handmade artistry in the yarn industry, like we're now in our community.
No better person to speak about that, hey?
Thank you. And then there's just this whole array of really interesting workshops, and it feels a bit more like a conference, more like I don't know if you've ever been to the Australian Craft and Quilt Show.
I have not.
That's usually
That's in Sydney, hey?
they do a circuit, and I always used to go with Mum because she was a quilter, and we would go and look at the display of quilts.
Yeah.
And there were like workshops and talks you could go to at all different times, and then there was a market that you could walk around. So this has more of a feeling like that rather than other yarn events that I've been to, which have been like there's been a market and that's kind of it. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
you just
from-
go to shop.
Yeah,
and then,
like the Bendigo wool and
Yeah.
sheep shows and that
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So that's next weekend on Saturday and Sunday in Canberra. And then in May, I have 3 events because I'm absolutely nuts to have signed myself up for 3 events back to back, but that's okay.
Dive in, you'll be right.
2024 is my year of more. So
It rhymes, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
more in 2024. That was the whole thing that I was like, I want to do more of the things that I want to do, and somehow in the back of my brain I didn't realize that equated to doing less of stuff that was other than that.
Yeah.
Because I had just one person and I have to make room for it.
Yeah.
In May the 5th is Fibre Frolic, which is in Mulgoa, which is in the western suburbs of Sydney. So if you're in Sydney, you can come and find me at Mulgoa. And then mid-May is the Canberra Wool Expo, which is, I'm back down to Canberra again.
Yeah.
That's at the old bus depot markets.
Yeah.
And then the last one in May is the Knitters Picnic in Dungog.
Yes.
Which is a really, really cute festival up in Dungog, which is a gorgeous, oh my god, like it's bonkers beautiful in Dungog. It's this cute little country town out in the back of the Hunter Valley, which is kind of near where I am in Newcastle.
I had my honeymoon in Hunter Valley.
Oh my gosh, beautiful. And they have, this lady has set up this shop called the Hive and Gobbler, which is such an adorable, it's like all kind of sustainable, natural, making, homesteading kind of things. And every year she has this picnic event, which goes over the weekend, and you come up and you stay, and there's heaps of workshops, and they have this gorgeous little grounds out the back. You can picnic basket and sit and knit, and there's music and there's stalls. So I'm going to be there as well on the market day, which is the Sunday, but I might go up on the Saturday and just hang out and do some knitting and, I don't know, be like a
Enjoy
normal
it.
knitter type person.
Right? Enjoy the atmosphere.
And then for Victorians, I'm coming back in July for Bendigo Wool and Sheep Show.
Yay!
So I only just found out about that like last week or the week
my
before.
gosh.
So I haven't even told anybody yet.
You heard it here first.
So slightly panicking
my
over that
God.
one. But it'll be really good. I'm really excited.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So June is going to be my month to prep for Bendigo.
That is a month of making.
So yeah, it's a lot. Like there's quite a lot of things going on, and there are other ones in the later half of the year, but I'll advertise those as they come closer.
Yeah. And then you're also on Instagram.
Yes.
You have a website. I'll link that in the
Yeah.
description box.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. I'm so bad at Facebook, so if people are Facebook people, and if you message me and I don't ever reply, I'm sorry, but every time I try to find messages from people and click on the button that says, it just takes me in this whole big circuitous thing around, you know, the deep dark depths of Facebook that I never wanted to see. So Instagram's probably the best way of getting in touch with me, or via email, and my newsletter, like I said before, is probably the best if you don't want to ever miss things. Yeah.
And the last question, which is the Purlfect pairing question, is what is your beverage of choice when you craft?
Oh, okay. So if I'm feeling like something a bit naughty, it's a gin and tonic.
Yes.
We
We just get along.
Yeah. I started a gin collection when we moved from Sydney. So I've started collecting like boutique gins from Australian distillers, and so I have quite like a nice selection of what I'm going to refer to as top shelf gins, even though they're probably not as expensive as top shelf gins. They're good enough. And if it's not G&T, if it's more like of a before 5 o'clock time period, it's a cup of Earl Grey tea. French Earl Grey is my preferred tea.
Yep.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. It's been really fun.
You're welcome. If you've enjoyed today's interview, please give the video a thumbs up. Again, comment, and if you want more Purlfect content, please hit the subscribe button so we can bring you more interviews like this when the opportunity arises. I'm really trying to get some exposure for people outside of Victoria as well.
Yep.
As inside, it's just a bit harder to get access.
Yeah.
So,
It's hard. Well, it's a long way to travel,
right?
unless you're a crazy person like me. 4 days in the car for a one-day event. That's what we're doing.
I'm so excited that you're going to be here for Bendigo.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. I can't wait.
Oh, thanks so much, Lisa.
People will have to tell me what they want me to bring.
Put it in the comments. Put it in the comments. Lisa will be watching.
Yes, I will. Sharing it all over the socials.
Oh,
and
thank
everything.
you.
Yeah, my
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thanks so much for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. All right. Until next time, everybody. Happy knitting, crafting, and using beautiful notions.
Bye.